Hi, welcome to the Maze Generator. Today I would like to go over some of the features available when using this tool. Maze Generator allows you to procedurally generate mazes of any size that you would like using predetermined tiles and nodes. Right, let's look over some of the features that comes with this tool. On the left side, you'll see some of the config options. You have whether or not the tool is active or deactivated at the beginning of play. This is useful for whenever you want to debug a level and you don't want the maze to generate each time. You can have the maze size, so let's take a look at that. We can start off with the default value of 8. It creates a 8 by 8 little maze, not the biggest maze, but functional. Or we can increase. The highest I can get it to is 115 before my computer can no longer handle it. Let's see if it loads. Yeah. 115 is a little bit too much to handle. Oh, there it goes. So, this is the largest maze I can get using the same code, and any size maze in between will work as well. Another feature is, let's zoom in. Another feature is setting the tile size. So let's go back to the default. The tile size controls how big each tile of the maze is. So it'll censor the static mesh or the blueprint using that tile size. So right now we have a size of about 500 in between each tile, and we get a better view of what the tiles look like. I've spread out the tiles that come with the maze generator. I created these just as an example so you can use. This is what I call the dead end. This is the hallway. This is the L corner. This is the T intersection, and this is the four-way intersection. And this I just an example of a custom start and beginning node that you can use. We also have the smaller versions of each one. Small little dead end, hallway, L corner, T intersection, and the four-way intersection. These can be configured inside. We'll look over that in a little while. First, let's look over how to use the random start and end function. If we leave it at random, the beginning and the end of the maze will be randomly decided at the beginning of play. So if we look here, if we fly above, we have the beginning over here and the end over here. By default, it'll try to keep the beginning of the maze on the bottom quarter of the maze and the end of the maze on the top quarter of the maze. So if we go back, we can turn that option off and we can manually set which node we would like to use as the beginning and the end. So let's put it on the bottom corner, bottom left corner, and the top right corner. And there you can see this is the beginning of the maze and this is the end of the maze. Now any node can be used as your end node as well as your beginning node. You see there, this is the 100th and this is 0. So if you put it to 50, for example, you can raise it to the highest maximum. You can't go higher than the maze size allows you to. And there you can see, if we fly over there, you have the ending and we have the beginning. Right, so let's leave that at random for now, bring it back down to default. As you can see, the end node automatically decreases as well. The snaking maze determines whether or not you want the maze to snake upon itself. So if we have it off, it'll try to avoid situations where it will intertwine with itself over and over again. If we turn it on, hopefully you can see the difference, but the maze sometimes will go left, up, left, up, right, up, and sometimes that is one. See, right here we have an example. Sometimes we want to avoid that, so you have the option to determine whether or not you want that. The custom start and end node determines whether or not you want to use a custom static mesh. So if we turn it off, we no longer have those, or this one, to determine where the beginning and end is. So this is useful if you wanted to have like a battle arena or any sort of game like that. You have the option to determine that as well. Let's find our little maze here. Okay, so let's leave that on. This determines whether or not you want to teleport the player at the beginning of play. So if you have it on, since I don't have a player yet, I don't have a character. This is a blank minimum world, or project I should say. But you can see I got teleported to the beginning of the maze when it started. So another thing you have the option to determine is whether or not you want to use static meshes for each individual node. So the tool allows you to use either static meshes or blueprints. So if you have a static mesh, if you have a blueprint you would like to use for your dead ends, you can turn off static meshes. And if we run this, we should be able to see that. Give it a second. Sometimes it gets hung up a bit. Sorry about that, I had a hiccup. My computer doesn't really like such a large maze. I forgot to lower the size. Let's bring it back down to defaults, and we should be able to see. There we go. Now, something you want to keep in mind is blueprints are more demanding than static meshes, or at least the blueprints I created. So, having a larger maze will be heavier on your computer, especially trying to fly around. So, we can see here that the dead ends are replaced by these blueprints of just an empty office building that I created as an example for you to use. It's just an empty, kind of like office building, dead end of a hallway. These can contain lighting or ammo drops or anything that you would like, anything that is able to be done with a blueprint. If we turn all the nodes into blueprints, we should see an example of an enclosed maze that I created. Now it's really hard to determine which side is, or where the start and end node of this, but it is a maze. So, as you can see, these are included for you to use as well. They're just example nodes of how you can build your indoor kind of haunted or just a building that procedurally generates using a set nodes. The key thing to remember when using these nodes is that you can use more than one. So if we had 20 different examples of a dead end with your static meshes, it would pick one at random each time it needs one. So if you have 10 different variations of a hallway, it'll grab one at random as well. And it does this for all the nodes. Here we can see that this is where you set the nodes. These are set by default as your static meshes. So let's change these, for example, to the smaller versions of themselves. Dead end. We can go small hallway, small L, small T, and then the small four-way. Since I don't have an custom open node, we should turn off the custom start and end nodes. And if we run play, oh yes, this brings me to another point. We should lower the tile size to 500. This one should match the tile size should match the size of your tiles, obviously. So we can see here that it's a different kind of maze now. It's a much smaller maze, but you can raise the size and you have a more traditional type of maze. More of a hedge maze kind of thing. Right, so you can also set the blueprints down here as well, same idea. For example, you have two instances here. Each time it needs a L corner, it'll grab one of these at random. And then here you have an offset rotation. So in case you have a node that needs, if you're only using one node and you happen to orientate it incorrectly, you can set the offset here for each individual node. Now, one thing to remember when creating your nodes, it's very important, is the hallway, or the way it's coded, the dead end should face to the right, the hallway as well, the L should be north and right, the T intersection should be north and facing horizontally, east and west, and the four-way doesn't matter the way you orientate it unless you have a specific desire for it, in which case it should be, of course, north and to the right. Now these are included with the pack, and you can, or with the blueprints, and you can use these as an example. You should follow these the way they are set up to have a proper maze, because the maze needs to know which way these are orientated to begin with to orientate them correctly. And I think that pretty much wraps it up. Thank you for considering the maze generator, and have a nice day.